Hey everybody, how's it going? I was gonna make this video this weekend, but I feel like I have a little bit of time now, so I can kind of jump into it a little, jump into the subject and kind of get this video done before the weekend comes. Who knows what the future holds for us, right? So this video is really simple. It really comes down to politics and your service. So one of the things that you will know, especially for those of you who are just enlisting, part of your enlistment process is that you sign an agreement in which you state that you won't take uh, participate in any like protests and things of that nature while you're in uniform. Why? Well, because when the public sees you in uniform, they see that U.S. Army across your chest or Marines across your chest or whatever the branch that you're in across your chest, and they see you doing something, they're going to associate that action. They're going to associate those words with the entire branch. And since none of us are spokesmen or spokeswomen for the branch that we serve in, it's not really our right to put our service, our branch in the position where they now have to defend their name one way or the other on a political agenda that they had no choice in participating in, or that they weren't interested in participating in. So it's very important to understand that when you're in uniform, there are very strict rules when it comes to being political. When you're out of uniform, you're in your civilians. Uh, doesn't mean that you're completely free to say whatever you want and to do whatever you want. You still need to have just use some wisdom. So I'm a person who I've grown up and I grew up in a politically involved household. So we paid attention to what was going on in politics. We were very active in our communities. We came up with a really good uh, mindset of giving back and making sure that we are doing and advocating for those things that better our community, the communities that we came from, that I came from. And I still have that same belief. I still have that same push inside. And so for me, a lot of times when it comes to me espousing on where I fit politically, I try to keep it in that vein. I talk a lot about things that are helping the community, and I talk against things that are hurting the community. Um, I advocate for those things that I see that are good for our community, whether it be programs, youth programs for our inner city or our rural kids, to help get them the resources that they need in order for them to have a fair chance at making it in this life. Um, I am a big supporter when it comes to social programs that help uplift single mothers, to help them, do the jobs that they're trying to do with their children, and at the same time build their life. Those are just some examples, and so I really advocate hard for those kinds of causes. Um, I'm a believer that our judicial system, that our political system, um, that our police system should all be fair to everybody and treat everyone fairly. I wholly believe that, and I will advocate for any kind of reform, any kind of programs that it helps get us to that point. But where I stop at is because again I am a serviceman. I do represent a branch of our service. I will stop short of uh, going in on a president, whether I agree with that president or I agree with this president, or if I disagree with this president or that president, um, because of again me representing the army. I would not want anything that I say to be misconstrued as a representation of my unit, a representation of my branch. And at the same time, the president, no matter who they are, whether they're Democrat or Republican, whether I agree with them or don't agree with them, they're still my commander in chief. So there's still a level of respect that I have to defer to the office. And so I would encourage you. And I know a lot of people, we live in a time where we use social media to express everything. And the first thing that comes to our minds, people, put it on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, what have you. And a lot of people get in trouble with that. Um, because sometimes if you're caught up in the moment and you just decide, I'm going to throw this on social media and move on, it almost becomes a running record that anybody can pull and use against you. It can slow down your career. It can derail your career. It can, cause a lot of harm to you in your career personally. So as a service member, especially if you're one who has very strong political views, make sure you're using wisdom on what you talk about and how you talk about those things, so that way you can steer clear of any controversy dealing with your branch and with your chain of command. Um, Also, one of the things that I have noticed, being in the service, has given me the opportunities or an opportunity to really sit down and have conversations with people who are on the opposite side of the table, so to speak. So I typically lean left in my political views. There are some things that no, you I would no I would I can that I probably agree with conservatives on, and then there are other things that I agree with those who are more liberal on. And what I found is when I have conversations with people who are uh, on different sides of the table than I am, I find that we have a lot of things in common. We have a lot of the same goals. We have a lot of the same desires, and we have a lot of the same concerns. The biggest thing that we differ on are just the ways to address those concerns. And a lot of times, differences in how to address those concerns have to do with the way that we were raised, have to do with our own personal experiences in life, um, and have to do with our own allegiances when it comes to family, when it comes to culture, things of that nature. Um, but when you sit down to talk one on one with someone from that's across the aisle from you, uh, you tend to be able to listen more. They listen more, and you're able to find that common ground where we can say, well, you know what, these things make sense, these things don't make sense. There may be a few things we're going to have to agree to disagree on, but I hardly ever leave the table or leave the discussion with the feeling as though this person is now my enemy, and that person is the same. That person leaves the table more times than not feeling as though I'm not the enemy, which is where we should be, or how we should be able to have discussions as Americans. No, America is made up of millions and millions of people. It's inevitable that we're going to have different views on the same subject, on the same topic. What we should want to avoid, though, is where we are now and presently. I said this in my last video, where we're so entrenched in our tribalism, we're so entrenched in trying to prove the other person wrong, that we've colored fellow Americans enemies. We've colored fellow Americans un-American because they don't agree with us. We've colored fellow Americans unpatriotic because they don't agree with us. We've colored fellow Americans as the worst people simply because we have a difference of opinion. And all that's done is polarized us as a country. And so when we elect our officials, we don't elect our officials based on what's best for the country. We elect our officials based on what we want, based on our side, who supports our side, as if any side has a monopoly on what's right, as if any side has a monopoly on the truth. The reality is that no side has a monopoly on what's right or what's the truth. Both sides have been at some points in history right, and both sides have at some point in history been wrong. And we need to be able to acknowledge that. If we are really here for the betterment of the country, then we need to be able to admit when we're wrong and admit when someone else is right. We need to be willing to try some new things. We need to be willing to have those conversations, those tough conversations about topics that don't make everyone feel comfortable. And understand that we're not coming from a bad place, or that we shouldn't be coming from a bad place, but that we're coming from a place where we're trying to find some solutions to some real problems that are going on in the world and that go on in this country, and we want to move forward. If we can start from the fact that we're all Americans and that we all want to see this country move forward and continue to be good, to continue to move forward and be the best that it possibly can be, regardless of who's right and who's wrong, then that's a good starting point. We can all agree on some facts. They're just facts that are true. We can agree on those facts. Then those are good starting points. So hopefully we can get there. In the meantime, for those of you service members who, again, who do have political views, make sure you're using wisdom and how you're expressing them. Make sure you're not expressing extremist views from one side or the other side. Make sure you're not speaking. Make sure you're careful of the way that you talk about the commander in chief, no matter who.